Not too long ago, we released a video highlighting the worst NFL teams who still failed to land the number one pick in the NFL draft. The opposite end to that are the teams that did get to land the number one overall pick that, in a relative sense, aren't so terrible. Today we will be counting down the 10 best teams who did just that, starting from the 1970 draft and onward. We will be ranking these teams the way we always rank them, by using C-Score. This channel's metric for evaluating every single team during the Super Bowl era. If you're wanting a more detailed explanation of C-Score, we have more information for you in the description of this video. We used 1970 as our starting point because that was the season the NFL and the AFL merged into one league. 1971 is the first draft that would use results from that single league, so it can be argued that that should be the starting point. Well, pick your poison, because none of those teams made the list anyway. This is only going to consist of teams that truly earn the number one pick as it's given out by the NFL. A team who traded the pick or was forced out of it due to expansion will be the teams we list here, not the teams who traded for the pick or the expansion teams themselves. Now, even though this is a best of list, make no mistake, these are bad football teams in the grander scheme who all carry negative double-digit C-scores. But some found their way into a lot of bad luck as well. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's time to get this party started. We begin at number 10 with the 2007 Miami Dolphins. They were the league's only one-win team, finishing 2 games behind the 3-13 St. Louis Rams. Their C-score sits at negative 23.623. In quite the contrast, the 07 Dolphins shared a division with the 16-0 Patriots and were an overtime victory away from being their mirror opposite record-wise. Miami certainly wasn't great, but nowhere near as bad as their record would suggest, considering they lost 6 games by exactly 3 points. In fact, by C-score, they were only the 4th worst team for the 07 season, beating out the Falcons and 2 teams from the dreadful NFC West, the Rams and the 49ers. With the first pick in the 2008 draft, the Dolphins selected Michigan offensive tackle Jake Long. I know many will automatically value a quarterback higher and therefore say they should have taken Matt Ryan, who went 3rd. But Jake Long was on the absolute fast track to the Hall of Fame, making 4 Pro Bowls and 2 All-Pro teams in his first 4 seasons before injuries took their toll. At number 9 is another 1-15 team, the 2000 San Diego Chargers. They too finished 2 games behind their closest competition, the Arizona Cardinals and Cleveland Browns, finishing with a C-score of negative 23.56. The Chargers also just missed a winless record, winning their 1 game by 1 point. In contrast, they lost 6 games by 3 points or fewer, 2 by 3 points, 2 by 2 points, and 2 by 1 point. Like the Dolphins before them, there's no pretense here that they were good, but also not nearly as bad as their record. The Cardinals and the Browns both finished below them in C-score, and for good measure, so too did the Bengals. The Chargers barely edge out the Dolphins as the greatest 1-15 team in NFL history. They got the number 1 pick in the 2001 draft, but they didn't keep it, trading it to the Falcons, who selected Virginia Tech quarterback Michael Vick. The Chargers got Tim Dwight and 3 draft picks, one of whom became Hall of Famer LaDainian Tomlinson. Vick was a fine and even great player for parts of his career, but yeah, San Diego won that trade. The Houston Oilers, after years of contention, were taken apart in 1994 and land here in the 8th spot. They finished behind the Bengals and the Redskins by a game to snag the first pick, landing a C-score of negative 21.283. Indeed, after another playoff failure and with the salary cap set to take effect, owner Bud Adams essentially disassembled the squad and they fell off pretty hard, especially offensively, where they finished last in the league in scoring. They too lost 7 games by 3 points or fewer, including 4 in a row. But in the only such occurrence in this countdown, the Oilers did finish the '94 season as its worst in C-score, although it was pretty close. So they truly deserved the number 1 pick in the 1995 draft. Except that both the Carolina Panthers and the Jacksonville Jaguars joined the league as expansion teams, taking the first 2 picks and pushing Houston down to number 3. With Kajana Carter and Tony Baselli off the board, Houston selected Alcorn State quarterback Steve McNair. He was named NFL co-MVP in 2003 and was generally worth the selection over his career. A different team from Houston takes the number 7 spot, the 2013 Texans. They earned the first pick by finishing a single game behind the Redskins. Their C-score is -20.629. The Texans started the season 2-0, which means they lost 14 in a row to end matters. More than half of those losses, 9 to be exact, were by a single possession, including 4 by 3 points and another by a single point. This after back-to-back division title winning seasons that each included a playoff victory. The Texans were 3rd from the bottom in C-score in 2013, behind the Redskins and the Jaguars. South Carolina edge defender Jadeveon Clowney went to the Texans with the first pick in the 2014 draft. And when he's been healthy, he's been great, making 3 straight Pro Bowls and landing on an All-Pro team. He's still in the league today, but is hurt by 2 factors. 1, he's currently on his 6th team, having played for 5 different teams over the past 6 seasons. And 2, Khalil Mack at the same position went in the draft just 4 picks later. Closing out the first half of the countdown are the 2019 Cincinnati Bengals at number 6. This is our 3rd straight 2-14 team, and somehow our 3rd straight team to finish exactly 1 game behind the Washington Redskins. Cincy's C-score is -20.188. Cincinnati opened the season with a 1-point loss on the road against Seattle, a team that eventually made it to the playoffs. Even with 2 wins in December, this was likely the season's high point. They went 0-8 in 1-score games, signifying a tremendous amount of bad luck. The Redskins finished behind the Bengals in C-score, but the Miami Dolphins did so too, in a season where everyone assumed Miami would land the first pick in 2020 and draft Alabama quarterback Tua Tagovailoa. The Bengals got the pick instead and wound up drafting a different quarterback who rose to the top of the board, LSU's Joe Burrow. After a rough rookie season and being reunited with college teammate Jamar Chase, Burrow has turned out great. Miami wound up getting Tua at the 5th pick anyway. I would say that Bengals fans are happy with this course of events. The San Diego Chargers are back from just 3 seasons later, taking the 5th spot with their 2003 team. At 4-12, there was a 4-way tie between them and the Raiders, Cardinals, and Giants at the bottom of the league. Our C-scores lead the -20s, with the Chargers at -18.307. San Diego had a fairly solid offense in 2003, finishing right in the middle of the pack in scoring. It was their defense that let them down, finishing 2nd to last in the league in points allowed. After opening the season 0-5, the Chargers never could recover, winning games in between 3 additional separate losing streaks. 2 of the teams they tied with at 4-12 were worse off than San Diego in C-score, the Cardinals and the Giants, and so too were the Falcons. With the first pick in the 2004 draft, the Chargers selected Ole Miss quarterback Eli Manning, who made very clear he wanted no part of the franchise. They traded him to the Giants for NC State quarterback Phillip Rivers. The Giants won 2 Super Bowls while the Chargers won none, but those are team accomplishments. Rivers was the better player, and getting Sean Merriman with one of the additional picks they received makes it clear that they won the trade. A very recent team lands in the 4th spot, the 2022 Chicago Bears. Their 3-14 record left them a half game behind the Houston Texans, who were 3-13-1. Their C-score for their record was respectable at -18.013. Chicago was 2-1 and 3-4 during the season, reasonably representing themselves as competent. Then they lost their last 10 games of the season by an average of more than 13 points per game. The Texans were one of 2 teams who did worse in C-score than the Bears, with the Colts being the other. Chicago did have the first pick in 2023, but it was in fairly high demand, so they traded the pick to the Carolina Panthers in an absolute fleece job. They got the 9th pick, dynamic wide receiver DJ Moore, Carolina's first pick the next season, which turned into Caleb Williams, among other things, just so Carolina could reach for Alabama quarterback Bryce Young, who started 18 career games before being benched. Chicago wound up with Tennessee tackle Darnell Wright after trading out of the pick they got from Carolina, which could have been Jalen Carter. After years of contending, the Dallas Cowboys finally fell during the mid-80s, hitting the bottom of the league in 1988, where they land here at number 3. They finished 1 game behind the Lions and the Packers, and with a C-score of -17.818. Dallas wasn't nearly as bad this season as they would be in the next. They were even 2-2 before a 10-game losing streak with a mix of blowouts and closer games. They were second worst in the league in C-score, only finishing ahead of the Chargers. With the first pick in 1989, a draft that was littered with Hall of Famers at the top, the Cowboys selected UCLA quarterback Troy Aikman. Aikman was a fine player, but also a classic example of quarterbacks being tethered with team success. He was terrible early on, and the Cowboys were so confident in him that they used a 1990 first-round pick in the supplemental draft on another quarterback, Steve Walsh. Had Walsh won the job, would he be the one in the Hall of Fame today? The other Hall of Famers in the top 5, Barry Sanders, Derek Thomas, and Deion Sanders, were all better than Aikman. We get a big jump of more than 4 points in C-score with the 1997 Indianapolis Colts at number 2. They finished 1 game behind the Chargers, Raiders, Cardinals, and the Bears, but their C-score was better than all of them at -13.526. Indy is the first team in this countdown whose point differential was better than -100. In fact, their -88 gives them a Pythagorean win total of 4.8. Still not great, of course, but better than first pick in the draft material. There was indeed another team with lower C-score than them, the Saints, making Indy the only team in this countdown who wasn't even a bottom 5 team for their season. 2 players were thought to be generational talents at the top of the 1998 draft, with much debate about who was better. The Colts stuck to their guns and made their pick, bypassing Ryan Leaf. They took Tennessee quarterback Peyton Manning. I truly believe if there were ever only one thing that 100% of football fans can agree on, it would be that Manning was the correct choice. If anyone does disagree, I would love to have directions to your home planet so that I may visit it one day. But at number 1 are the 1981 New England Patriots. It's unthinkable that a 2-14 team would only carry a -48 point differential, but this team found a way. They were tied with the Colts for the worst record in the league and finished with a C-score of -12.42. Coming off the back of the best 2-year run in the multiple wildcard era that did not include a trip to the playoffs, the Patriots opened the season with a 1-point loss to the Colts. They ended it that way too, in a story we've told before. They went 0-8 in one-score games, including 2 overtime losses and an additional 2-point loss. The Colts, Saints, and Browns all had worse C-scores than New England's, with Indy's far worse. In fact, from the same division, in the same season, came both the greatest 2-14 team in NFL history and the worst 2-14 team in NFL history. Just crazy stuff. New England took Texas defensive lineman Kenneth Sims with the first pick. His entire 8-year career was spent with the Patriots, and if he was the first pick in the second round, he would have been thought to have a pretty good career. But he did not live up to the top spot, and in a touch of irony, is likely the worst selection of the 10 that we've looked at today. Here now is the entire top 10 at once. In this 55-year period, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Indianapolis Colts earned the number 1 pick more often than anybody else with 5 each. But only the Colts land 1 team on this list, while the Bucs get none. The Patriots and the Titans/Oilers also earn 1 entry each from their 4 times landing the top pick. We left out mentioning any one strength of schedule, saving that bit of information for now. Every team on this list had a top 10 strength of schedule. In fact, they were all in the top 6. Every team, that is, except for the team who topped this list, the New England Patriots, who were tied for 21st. I'm not all the way sure what to make of that. 25 of the 32 NFL franchises had a chance to make this top 10, with only the Chargers getting here twice, incidentally, from their only 2 seasons that got them the first pick. In all, 7 different franchises have avoided this fate entirely. The Broncos, Commanders/FT/Redskins, although they've been close many times. The Giants, Packers, Ravens, Seahawks, and Vikings. The Vikings stand as the only NFL franchise to neither land the number 1 pick nor win the Super Bowl. Keep on, Minnesota. Keep on. Thank you so much for making it to this point in the video. By doing so, I can only assume that you liked it. So give it a like, share it around, and subscribe to the channel if you've yet to do so. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to ding the bell to be notified about all future releases. Let me know what you think about all of this. Is there a team I left out? Did I include one that I shouldn't have? How about my assessments of how teams did with their picks? Any big Eli Manning defenders out there? I would love to hear from you on these topics or anything else that you may have on your mind down in the comments section. Be sure to check out the channel's other offerings, particularly from our rankings playlist that should be on your screen right now. Thank you again for joining us today, and until next time, I hope you have an awesome day.